Welcome to Obstacle Running Adventures,
the podcast that fuels your passion for obstacle course racing,
running, and all things adventurous.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or a weekend warrior,
we've got news updates as well as interviews with athletes
and other key members of our athletic community.
As a weekly show since 2017, we have covered everything from
championship and virtual races
to fundraising events and FKTs. And now, here are your hosts,
Michael Stefano and Caitlin Ritter.
Standing on the corner, lost all my clothes.
Hey guys, it's Michael Stefano.
And Caitlin Ritter.
And Caitlin, how was your weekend?
It was not that great. We were supposed to be in New Jersey celebrating like Christmas with my family, and I ended up with the norovirus.
Yeah, you did. She woke up with issues, and she said, should I go to work? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh wait, the norovirus is going around. And that's exactly what you had. So I kind of quarantined you for a day, and you've gotten better.
Yes,
even though it says you can be contagious for like 2 weeks or something. So
I haven't been in the bathroom at all today other than peeing, so that's nice.
Congratulations. We also saw the movie Titanic, which I don't think I've ever seen all the way through, and it was much better than I thought.
Would you let go?
I mean, I think it was more of like an emotional thing of like, don't forget about me.
Do you think we both could have fit on the door?
I don't know. There's only so much buoyancy there. I mean, I'd be okay dying and like...
I know you'd be okay dying.
Let's get to our sponsors.
Shout out Mudgear. Use code ADVENTURE for 15% off your next Mudgear purchase. Caterpie. Use code OCRReport20 for 20% off your next Caterpie purchase. And use code OCRReport20 for 20% off any Spartan, Deca, or Tough Mudder event.
Perfect. We need to shout out the $5+ Patreon supporters.
Jason Dupree, Samantha Thompson, Bradley Keel, Charlotte Engelman, Aaron Grindstaff, Cheryl Miller, Laura and Stephen Ritter, Hank and Arlene Stefano, Jessica Johnson, Christopher Hoover, Kevin Gregory Jr., Evan Irick, Brent George, Logan Nagel, Asa Connington, Seth Renderknech, and Steve Bacon as the New England OCR Expo.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. We greatly appreciate it. And to the OCR Report for being a great home for us on the internet.
And to Will Hicks,
the Podfather. Check it out over at theocrreport.com. They're coming back from Kuwait, where they covered the medal games, where I heard some good things about it. Actually, during this interview. Let's give a shout out to our sponsored athletes.
Javier Escobar, Kelly Sullivan, who completed checkpoint 3, which is 44.38 miles at the Green Beret Operation Okla.
Nice.
Ocala. Ryan Brizzalara, Joshua Reed, and Kevin Gregory, who is hosting the first official DECA Atlas at his gym, Underdog Fitness, on February 23rd.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we could go to that. We'll see. Poll results. I don't think we put out a poll this week. But I did find a meme. I'm trying to get better about meme of the week. I found one that was tangentially related to a wildfire, and to that I said too soon. So I found one more fitting for this episode. Not so much a meme, but...
Oh yeah, I've heard this before.
Yeah, I think we've done this before.
To remember how many feet there are in a mile, you just gotta use 5 tomatoes. 5 tomatoes sound like 5280, and there's 5,208 feet in a mile.
80 feet, yep.
To remember how many meters there are in kilometers. Is that how you say it? Kilometers. You just remember... you just remember 1,000 because the system of measurement in the rest of the world wasn't invented by a drunk mathematician rolling dice.
Yeah, that's how it be sometimes.
Wait, is that really how it happens?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
But there's no good solution. When we were over in Italy, we came to the confirmation that like their measurements are better in every single way, except for heat. We do heat better.
Yeah, because 14 Celsius. What is that even?
Right, what is that even? It only makes sense for water, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get to some quick news, starting with Jules Estes' injury. This is something that happened a bit ago, and we meant to talk about it before, but it got lost in my notes.
She posted, urgent care diagnosis, avulsion?
Avulsion?
Fracture, will know more after an ortho appointment. Somebody said, oh, you must have done that at CrossFit or one of those obstacle races. Haha, how silly of you. Actually, I was doing a happy jog to my car after an appointment. Then, face down on the ground in excruciating pain, I stepped on the edge of the sidewalk, rolled out my ankle, went down hard, skinned my other knee, and hands at the final landing half on the sidewalk and parking lot, absorbing the pain until I could rise. Glad no one needed to park at that time.
Yeah, so we're wishing her a quick recovery. Next up, a shout out to Brian Beal.
Brian Beal posted, "Meet Rebel. He's our new puppy that we saved from a local trail. I believe someone dropped him off south." Oh, how come the dog distribution system doesn't ever work for us?
I have no idea. Yeah, I know.
So he's handsome.
You didn't finish the sentence.
I believe someone dropped him off, sadly, but he's happy and warm now.
Yeah, it's crazy. You sent me this next news story.
A Australian man breaks the croc-wearing marathon record. His name is Dam Kamek, and he smashed the record in running a marathon with Crocs in 2 hours, 49 minutes.
Insane.
Do you think he had them in sport mode?
Oh, it's so stupid. Although my coach, Joshua Reed, does say that he tried them on for the first time and now he's a convert, so that has me a little nervous. We want to give a shout out to USA OCR because the 2025 USA OCR national team applications are live on the website. So this is for people that are interested in the 100 meter, the short course, which is a 3K, and the standard course, 15K. Applications are currently being accepted, so go and check all of these out. News stories down below.
Next up, the Mudgear Hannibal Race Pro Team has announced their people.
Yep, so new to this year, there's Marquez Green, Nathan Green, Sarah Tucker, and Christian Brown Johnson. So he pretty much has a monopoly on the World's Toughest Mudder community, and I've heard great things about the two Green brothers, so it'd be cool to maybe have them on the show this year.
Next up, friend of the pod, Scott the Fane Knowles got married to Leanne. He posted, "It's official. Today I married my best friend and the love of my life, and it was perfect."
Yeah, congratulations to them. Very happy.
Did you see their wedding photos?
Yeah, they looked awesome.
Stunning.
Pretty badass, yeah. Hybrid Fitness Media posted the Deca Atlas events. So the first 3 official events to happen. The first one will be at Underdog Fitness, which is in Wallingford, Connecticut. That is February 23rd. The second one, I'm just realizing, Pure Impact Athletics. I believe that is in Canada. I think they're friends with... I think that's Zach Tate and Amber. I could be wrong. And that's going to be March 1st. And then Pinnacle Fitness, 707. I apologize, I don't know where you're located, but that's going to be happening March 15th. And now we're going to shout out the Medal Games podiums.
In third place for the men elite, VJ Jones. In second place, Thomas Von Tonder. And in first place, Ryan Atkins. And for the women, in third place, Eva Von E. In second place, Angelique Chardonnau. In
Another tied for first. Maybe this must be what they were talking about.
Tied for first, and Nicole Miracle and Elisa Petrova.
Wow, okay. I'll have to check that out and see what happened with a tie. Bizarre to have a tie. Well, then, did you add this one?
I did.
Nice. I'm glad you did. Because both Kirk and Bracken posted about this.
Yes, so Kirk DeWint posted 2 days ago. "Today marks 5 years to the day when Bracken and I started the running public. Looking back, we stumbled onto something meaningful with a bit of dumb luck coupled by a true love for the sport. We began as competitors but quickly turned co-hosts. Thanks for all who support and listen."
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Bracken for a long time. Kirk, I've never met him, but I feel like I'd really like to meet him. He seems like a cool guy. I love that picture.
Oh, that's really cute.
Is that great? Do you want to read what Bracken posted?
Sure. Bracken posted, 5 years ago this week, Kirk and I started up on the podcast. I was 1 month away from my first knee surgery, moving away from full-time racing into full-time coaching and struggling a bit to accept the transition. I don't think either of us expected what this had grown into. The fact that there are enough people out there who are willing to listen to us talk about running, racing, and training each week still amazes us.
Yeah, and they're always the voices in my head when I go for my runs. Even a horrible run like yesterday. We have 5 secret links down below, but let's get to what this episode is all about. So Accountability Corner is a podcast that was created in May 2023 by 3 athletes, Darren Martin, Morgan Maxwell, and Chris Shipley, in England, because they wanted to keep themselves accountable. So since then, Darren, Morgan, and Chris have progressed to helping others stay accountable through their show. So you'll hear us discuss a bit about how they found the sport of OCR, origin of their podcast, how they feel that the UK ranks in Europe as a competitive country in the sport, the impact on local federations, world obstacle, complicated rulebooks, local OCRs, the style of racing in the UK, penalty preferences, World Stuff is Smarter coming to Europe, personal accountability updates, and goals for the show as well as themselves. So let's get to the interview with them. All right, so we can start off with your names and where you're from.
Who's going first then?
Oh,
you need to go first, Darren.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to take that. Yeah. So my name's Darren Martin, and I am from the UK, and I am like mid UK. I don't know how to describe it. Like Milton Keynes, just north of London. That's where I am. But Mo can go next because obviously Mo's moved recently.
Yeah. So Morgan Maxwell, also from the UK, as you can probably hear by my southern accent. But I am from not southern anymore. I'm now a northerner, so I've moved like up to the north of England, Sheffield, if anyone knows it. But yeah, it's north of England, but you can get norther. So I'm like just kind of above the Midlands, but just below the north.
Nice.
And I'm Chris Shipley, and I'm from the south of England, right smack in the middle at the south.
Awesome. Love it. So I know you guys have been podcasting for a while and you've released an episode talking about who you guys are, why you guys wanted to start a podcast. But let's go over that a little bit more. How did each of you guys find obstacle course racing?
Oh, we could do a whole episode on that. But yeah, definitely get into it. Sorry, I've just assumed that I was going to go first. I'm taking the role that we usually play in our podcast, and I think the guys are going to be happy with that anyway. I help to moderate our conversation, so I'll chuck some things their way as well.
Darren's the brains.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wasn't going to say it.
Well, you're not the brawn.
Yeah, definitely not the brawn.
I first got into OCR in 2012, and I did it just the standard way I think everyone gets into it is they're diversifying from a sport they love, and they just want that extra challenge. All of us are completely mad that get into OCR and just you want to hurt a little bit more. You want to find something more difficult, and you see this amazing thing on internet, like people jumping over walls and everything. And then I got hooked on watching Hobie Call absolutely looking amazing and phenomenal in Spartan races. And back in 2012, Spartan racing was incredible. Like their live streams, their recordings, they just made it look cool, and I wanted to be that cool. So that's how I started in 2012, and I've never been able to escape since. So I'm still going.
Love it. How about you, Mo?
So I was groomed, basically. No, I was a kid, and I was like I think 14 at the time, and my mum's personal trainer, he basically was starting like one of the first UK teams. And my mum started, and they were like, "Oh, you'd probably be quite good at this," because I was quite a good runner, and I played basketball and had quite a good sporting background as a kid. I'd tried everything, and they thought, "Yeah, you'd be good at this." So I gave it a go and realised, "Oh, actually, I'm all right at this." And then just been doing it ever since.
Oh, it's my turn, isn't it? Yeah. So similar to Darren, started about the same time. I was working in the scaffolding industry in the UK, and I sort of got off that lifestyle of a scaffolder and wanted to sort of push myself into doing more challenging events that used my body to like do things. And then I had a mate who did a Tough Mudder a couple of years beforehand, and it just sounded really cool. It was like a cool obstacle race that they were running and doing stuff. And then a few years later, I signed up for a Spartan race because I heard that was a bit more competitive than a Tough Mudder. Started doing Spartan races. My first one, just loved it. Actually did really, really well. And then just wanted to train more and more and just see how well I could do in it.
Nice. And so there's thousands of people that do OCR. Everyone has their unique stories with that, but not many people do podcasts on OCR. So what was the inception, the birth of this podcast? How did this come about?
Do you know what? I could really give you the most intelligent version of why we wanted to start this podcast. But the name came about is because me and Shipley have been racing for such a long time with Mo, and we train together. The one thing I would love for people to know in the UK, the community is so strong in the UK that even though we're competitors, we train together, we push each other. But the one thing that was happening is that Mo, we have such high aspirations for Mo. We want him to be awesome. And he wasn't training as much as he should do. So hence the word accountability came in, and we ended up realizing that three of us were having conversations that actually were helping us stay accountable to our training, but were more specific to obstacle course racing. And we were never leaving race events. We're spending 3 hours talking to other people about why we train, how we train. Oh, no, everyone's like, oh, I didn't know you train like that. Oh, I didn't realize how you pace OCR like that. And so it just felt quite organic that racers would talk about our trials and tribulations of what we get wrong and what we get right. And I think that's how it's developed. I don't know if
I don't think so.
Oh, no.
No.
Right,
See,
okay.
the way it happened is I'm on another podcast in the UK, right? And basically, these two were jealous that they weren't on a podcast. So they were like, let's start our own podcast and we'll use me to sort of break through and get people to listen.
Truth comes out.
We wanted his fame. He was getting famous and we were like, no, we can't. We need to like leech off the back of this. We can't. We can't have Shipley being the famous one.
Regardless of the origin, Mo, how does it feel to have, these two their faith in you so much to be an athlete in the sport?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, I'm quite lazy by nature, so I just need a bit of a kick up the arse most of the time. So I'm very grateful for him. And actually, it's especially as I've got older, I'm starting to be able to give myself a bit more of a kick up the arse. But especially when I was a little bit younger, it was like, especially Darren, because we used to live like so close. So I'd spend all the time with him. And like Darren said, we'd just be talking OCR all the time. And we thought, this is probably quite good to share to the world. But
yeah, love it. So when it comes to competitive OCR, as you guys are very familiar, there's age group and elites. So how do you identify yourself with that? Because I know that's come up quite a bit.
Yeah, you should listen to our podcast on it.
Yeah.
I know it.
That's another whole episode, that is. We can do it. Probably do it quickly. Well, Mo, you go first. You do it quickly.
I'll put myself as an elite. I think my aspirations and my goals definitely are elite. I don't know what these two are going to say, but yeah, definitely.
You know what we're going to say.
I'd love to say elite. I would love to, but the truth and fact of the matter is we ain't that good. So like in the UK, I think we race really well. We race in a sort of an elite field in the UK, but when it comes to a European and world sort of category, we are definitely age group. And I think it's quite hard to distinctify like where you're going to put yourself when you're racing OCR, when it's especially such a small contingency wherever you live. But you have to sort of like realize where you really step. And yeah, I don't know if you can elaborate on that a bit more, Darren, a bit more technically.
You're right, Ships. On my aspirations and will always be, and they will never stop for me to be an elite athlete. And we've spoken about this, that you need to have that purpose, that drive to go towards elite. And I started out OCR as an age group racer in the UK, and I've gotten to the stage where I do hold my own and I do very well in an elite level racing in the UK. But then when my skill set is then placed in a larger field, a larger pond, I head towards more being high level age group athlete at my age. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that you need to race with the competitors and just where you're going to get that absolute drive around you. And for us, it's just because OCR is growing. OCR isn't as big as, say, like your running sports or your athletics. So in terms of the pool of athletes, we're elite UK age. I'm an age group athlete when it comes to world and European level.
Gotcha.
We're quite lucky, me and Darren, because we're in the sort of categories of like the 30 to 40, I think, and they're the biggest age group. So we are quite lucky in the fact that we've got a really, really strong contingency of our age group to race against. It's really difficult to place well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the more competitive age groups here in the US as well. So part of being accountable is being accountable personally. I have some personalized questions for you guys, but also being accountable as like a country of competitors. So how do you guys feel that like you rank in Europe? Because it's tough because you have Denmark, you have all these countries that are like really known for OCR, and I've had quite a few people from the UK on. But how do you guys feel that you rank as a country?
Well, we're always going to reference John Albon, aren't we? Right. Come on, we produced John Albon. We've got, but I don't know how many more years we've got left of saying that. To be honest with you, if he's not in the sport. And we had Connor Hancock at a stage as well, he was definitely yeah, we've mentioned it a few times. Even if he went into the sport now, I think he would be very much at a high level. But I think Mo, what do you think where we rank? You're quite.
I think we're
blunt
coming.
on this.
We're definitely growing. Like we're getting better. Like for an example, European champs, our elite men's team, we came fourth, which is the best we've ever done at the European champs. With like since it's been like more affiliated things like that, which I think is a sign of a good, strong level of athletes. I think the problem we have in the UK at the minute, and it's the problem that's kind of set us back, is we didn't have enough competition. So we'd get really good guys like John Albon, like Connor, but then they're racing like nobodies and people, but people like us who are not quite their level, but can put a good race together sometimes. But I think now, especially the top end, we're getting this group of guys that are starting to really do well and are starting to really more even just train specifically, which I don't think we had before. So I think we're growing. I think we're still not there yet. I don't know, ranking wise, I don't know where that puts us, but well, technically fourth in Europe if you're looking at the men's elite, but yeah, I'm going to say that.
You look at some of the polls that come up when is it OCRWC do the rankings over the world. We've had some people come up on. You've been on that a few times, Mo, in the rankings, and we've had some. I think Dan's got on it quite a few times. So I think we are getting there.
I've been in the recommendation chips once.
Didn't Finley was on it as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
We don't care about you, Darren. Finley was on there.
Sorry.
I think the other problem we have in the UK is just kind of being shown to the rest of the world, because we are all full-time like work people. Like none of us are professional. So get into some of these races has always been logistically quite hard. So we're not always being shown to the rest of the world. But there's definitely some hidden gems here that are like you just mentioned Finley, who's someone's coming through who's quite young, but he'll definitely be top like level.
Yeah, sorry, just on the age group, you mentioned there, Mo, about like we're staying accountable in terms of like we are driving athletes coming through. And if Jack that Bauer did one of his stats on like maybe on the age group level athletes for the UK, I would say we stack really well from an age group contingent. Like the amount of people that attend European and world level and also European races from an age group point of view is really well attended and also really well performed. If you see some of the golden podium positions, age group performs really well for the UK, but it's just that next 1% that I feel like we're missing or we're about to hit in the future.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you guys are on the upward trend as well. It also helps that I'm listening to more podcasts. Thanks to you guys too. It helps me stay in the know. So what do you think it's going to take to get to that extra percent other than podcasts like yourself keeping people accountable?
I would say probably a mindset change. We've spoken about it in the past that obstacle course racing grew from a community sort of community groups and community activity in the UK, and it didn't grow from an elitist point of view. It didn't grow from people wanting to be paid, wanting to earn money, wanting to be professional athletes. And I feel like there needs to be kind of like a mindset change and also support. Obviously, you need support from that as well. You need sponsorship. We need to get into that marketing and actually someone to tell, like someone, maybe even someone like Mo, well, I tell him all the time, to be fair, but I tell him that he needs to put himself out there. He needs to make sure he's getting that sponsorship, getting that support team around him to actually help him grow as an athlete. Yes, if you do need to kick up the arse all the time, and if you're a very good age group racer with a lot of attributes that you can push to be an elite athlete, but you just don't know where you go from there, then I don't think you're ever going to get to an elite athlete point of view if you're not self-motivating. Yeah, that's my opinion. Don't know what you guys think.
I was just watching Mo pick his nose, so I lost.
Great.
I was twiddling my new mustache. I'm like trying to.
You can't grow a mustache.
I'm growing something. You want to see? Next time I see you, this is going to be full. I'm going to be like.
Is that okay? Is that what we're saying? Elite athlete Mo has a moustache.
Oh yeah. The moustache, okay. It's going to change everything. Okay. Like my running times are coming down the more these hairs grow.
There we go. Like, it's not sponsorship. It's not skill.
It's just hair.
It's moustache.
I think we've got quite a lot of support in the UK though, especially with the up and comings. We've got lots of like grassroots things happening over here, and I think some of the European countries have it as well. But I think a lot of our focus especially for UK OCRs, they're putting funding in the younger athletes to try and make them better. And I think that's where, maybe not at the moment, but maybe in the future, some of our things will be showing.
Yeah, no, that's the future of the sport. That's hugely important. I know that OCR is definitely struggling in the United States. I think there's no secret about that. But it's good to see you guys continue on like a really good trend in Europe, and that you guys have like federations, which is something that the United States seems to be strongly against for one way or another. It's just very different for us, where everything is privately owned, for better or for worse. So how do you think that's had an impact on the sport for you guys in Europe?
I think it's the youth. Like when I look at America, I know you've had people come through from young ages like VJ Jones and things, but the whole of Europe, we seem to have a lot more kind of like younger guys. Like look at Stein coming through this year. Like someone that's quite young, same age as me, but I've grew up racing him in age group when we was young. It's like you knew he was going to break it onto the scene soon. And people, there's so much talent in the younger ages here, the whole of Europe. Whereas obviously I'm not in the US, so I don't know what that's like, but it seems to be there's not many being kind of coming through the ranks.
And Mo, you're right. But the federations have supported that because yes, the federations have agendas, they have constitutions, they have an idea of what purpose and strategies they want to get to. But the underlying factor about if you introduce a federation, you introduce a group of people with the know-how of the trajectory of the sport and actually how the mechanisms that actually get into the sport. So that sharing of information has actually allowed the likes of Stein to know, right, Stein, you're good enough. You need to go here. He wouldn't have known that otherwise. Like, or like Mo, you need to go to this race because this race is important. Like, I think we could probably talk about the politics of different federations because I think that is a bit of a sticking point, but it's been, from my point of view, it's been nothing but positive from British obstacle sports, hasn't it, Chips?
Yeah. British obstacle sports, they've been on point. I mean, we're lucky that we've got our federation run. I think America's got it as well because I forget his name.
A little bit. Ian Hosick.
Ian Hosick's taken over. And I think it's the support of people that know obstacle racing, and those people that are sort of head in these sort of federations, they're the people that need to be in charge, the people who have real love and they really want to do something well for the sport and see it grow and see athletes come through and develop and just be better, and then just have everyone seeing these really cool things happen.
And James Burton, who's our current president, we race with him. We're very good friends with him. Like we're all, like I say, we're all.
Well, we're not friends with him.
Well, no, rival,
rivals.
Yeah, but we know full well he's a racer at heart, and he just wants to drive the sport from the passion that the reason we got into it in the first place is there isn't any agenda of that he wants to like a big paycheck or anything like that. And I'm sure he probably does deserve it, to be honest, the amount of work he puts in. But we're quite close to it, so we're quite lucky in that sense. But if you were starting into this sport and you'd seen federations come and fail in the past, you might have a bit of apprehension to it. But hopefully conversations like these will help people.
Exactly. I think it's good to have more guidance for the athletes, just as you said. And Ian Hosick taking USA OCR has definitely helped things, because I know they had a rocky start and they had a rebrand and everything. But I think it definitely has a place in making sure that races are safe, making sure that they're standardized in a way that, like, this sandbag is the same weight as a sandbag. It's not leaking all over the goddamn place, because that's embarrassing for our sport, quite frankly. And it's hugely helpful to have someone at the top, just as you guys do, who has been in the sport and is a great voice for the sport. All that being said, what are your personal thoughts on World Obstacle?
It's like asking us what we think of our politicians, isn't it? You know, they might say good things, but you can't really trust a single thing that they say because they can't deliver on anything that they do. It is really difficult. We'd love to support them, but until we get cold hard facts that everything's going the right way, you can't fully back them, really, can you?
We did an episode on championship races, and like when the World Championships was put in, when it first came about, and it was called World Championships, everyone attended. All athletes attended. The biggest field ever was there. And as long as you're racing against the biggest field and you're comparing yourself in that stage against the best of the best, then yes, it's really good for the athlete. It is a championship race. That is the World Championships. It doesn't matter if it's just in a park around the corner or if it's in a massive stadium. If all the athletes are there, then it's a championship race. So my perspective of World Obstacle is, if they are bringing athletes to a championship race at all the athletes, then yes, I will still keep attending it because I just want to compare myself against the best. But if they have an ulterior motive of why they're moving athletes around, if there's a profit thing, if there's an idea that they want to go to the Olympics, if there's like that, the not Paralympics, the modern pentathlon integration, like if there's a reason they're moving athletes for that agenda, then yeah, I'm kind of like on the fence a little bit on that. But if it's just for good, hard race, then I'm there.
Yeah, I think the one thing, like the positive I would say for World Obstacle is with their big push helped kind of all the other countries in Europe and us as well in the UK be more affiliated with these like smaller governing bodies for the country. So I guess without them, we maybe would have never got that. And it's definitely having BOSS as part of the UK OCR scene, especially after COVID, because it kind of took a turn. It really helped pick up. So I guess they've helped with that. But then, you, like you say, you look at maybe some of the races and you looked at Belgium and Costa Rica and some of the other politics that you hear from different governing bodies and things. And it just, yeah, it gets hard to want to support them, shall I say.
You're right, Mo, you're right about it brought us together. Like everyone needs a combining factor or something that brings them together, even if it's bad or good or just we moan or we gossip. Like gossip brings loads of people together. So, but what's probably brought all the federations together is the idea that we need to make sure we're standing strong if there is change, that all federations from the Belgium, Holland, like UK, all federations are now talking together like really close because they're all got their ear to the ground wondering what World Obstacle are going to do. And I don't think that's happened in the past. I don't think that communication's been as transparent as it always has been, because when that manifesto changed, which I think we all sort of like saw the wording change, I've never seen so many federations come together, and maybe that's a silver lining, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like we're all now a big army of people, and it's not necessarily we don't have to listen to the generals and the lieutenants in that, but the army as a whole, we're all speaking together, and hopefully with all that speaking together, we can, what's the word that they use? What's like a mutiny? We could pull a mutiny and sort it all out from the bottom up.
Is that what we're doing? Is that what it is about? We're bringing the UK and US together.
Love it.
And Europe. All of it.
And Europe.
Yeah, admittedly, and it's pretty clear too, like the US has been very hesitant with all of that and hasn't been very fond of Ian Adamson, most people, and World Obstacle. But you're right, there absolutely is good to be had with these federations and everything, and whether or not they're good at putting on the events or should be more as a governing body for people that are already putting on the events. But yeah, there were some issues with the past two World Championships, but I think this one, which is going to be in Sweden, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be amazing because they're working with a company that's known to be putting on a really great event. So what are your thoughts on the championship this event?
That's where you'll really see, if anything goes wrong there, you'll really see who's pulling the strings, because Sweden, their obstacle world is like amazing. It's a proper sport over there. It's just really good. So if they can't make a good race, then it means that someone at the top's pulling too many strings and not making it for the races. And if that, in my opinion, goes a bit funny, then there's something really, really, there's a dodgy thing afoot.
We're going over there, aren't we? Chips, we're going over there in April. We're going to Tough Viking. So Tough Viking is one of the biggest races, I'd say, in that region where Gothenburg, where the World Championships is going to be. And like Chip said, that they've been putting on that race for years. And if they would have all the permits, they would understand the logistics, they would understand the toilet situations, they'd understand the rigs, they understand the terrain. So if something goes wrong, so yeah, like Chip says, there is definitely something going wrong with the organization. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that race. That's going to be good. We're going to go test out in April, which we get the luxury of that because it's just over. What was it? About 2-hour flight. It's not far.
Is that what it is? 2 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know what
as
anything
well
is.
with World Obstacle Sport and kind of Ian Addison and like the governing bodies and stuff. They've been at our European champs for the last 3 years, I'd say 2 years, and there hasn't been as much controversy at the European champs as there has been at these world champs, but they've picked really good, strong governing bodies. So I don't know how much a part of it is kind of the governing bodies, just the ones some maybe they've picked for the world champs and have just not been right and a good fit or ready to even hold an event. Whereas, I mean, Italy was really good racing.
Yeah.
Same with Hungary.
Yeah.
Hungary was really good, yeah.
That's a good point.
Doesn't answer why that they ask these other countries to back a race when it's like, oh, it's a bit questionable. Costa Rica, for example.
And I don't know if you guys remember too, but originally the plan was Russia, which was a very interesting choice by all accounts too. But you're right, Italy and Hungary were really good. There have been some issues with rule book like follow through. What are your thoughts on that? And I'm not here just to completely tear apart World Obstacles, so I apologize if it's coming off that way.
The rule book.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the problem is they're trying to make things too complicated, and I think that's where there is definitely something going wrong. I think when they're putting out these rule books, they're trying to be really, really specific with each rules, but this is such a varied sport that it just doesn't work. Like you almost need a bit of grey. It can't be too black and white.
Yeah, but we've had it in the UK, haven't we, Mo? We've had the rule books in the UK for the UK sort of official races. When they've been put on by people who understand the race and understand the logistics and understand how a race is done, the rule books are simple, the race is simple, and everything goes well. Sometimes I wonder if like the rule book's being made by too many people sitting in a room making too many decisions, no one agreeing on anything, and then everything just being overcomplicated because they're like, oh, let's put our 5 pence in and let's make it way too complicated because there's too many people with an opinion in there.
Yeah, you kind of want to say to these people, like, right, you're writing this rule book, right? Okay, now go out and do a 5K really quick and go do that obstacle. Let's see how many of you follow it. Right. Like, have they actually tried the rule book? Because we did a lot of the races in the UK are put on by race directors that are actually racers, so which is really, really positive. And we attended a race in Scotland, which is coming up in the next few months, and it was put on by a racer that we've raced against all the time, and he's got a field where he put on a race, and the rule book there was really technical obstacles, there was loads of obstacles, it could have been confusing, but it was just so simple. And it just shows, like same with James Burton, he's obviously supported the British Championships, and those rules have been so simple as well. We had Toros, we had all the controversial attachments, but no controversy in the rules happened. So yeah, just shows that maybe racers they actually need to test the rule book.
Yeah, I think simplicity would definitely be the way to go. Also, the fact that the rule book has to be translated in all these languages too has caused a fair share of problems. I know that, yesterday here had been in some sticky situations. Denmark got screwed over a couple of times, and it just keeps happening. But ideally, I don't want athletes to have to stop and think. I want them to go out there and race. And I want the best racer to be out there and not to stop and think like, oh, wait, can I touch this? Can I touch this? A good course should speak for itself, ideally.
Yeah. Back in the early days of the European Championships, there not only was the rule books a little bit confusing, but also the types of obstacles that were put into races were the confusing part as well. You come across and you see a cube and you're like, I'm used to monkey bars. Like, what do I do with this cube? Like, you can't touch the top of it. You can only touch the middle of it. It's like, oh, right, okay. I thought you just get through it and swing through it. But yeah, they have found a little bit of balance, but there's always this random obstacle that every community on Facebook in the UK is messaging and panicking about, sending like, what's this? I haven't seen this before. But yeah, it's the obstacle selection as well can be a bit better sometimes.
On the other side of championship races is like the local scene of OCR. And that is definitely where my heart lies. When I started in 2012, much like you guys, it was all about the local scene. And there wasn't a weekend where there was an event somewhere nearby, which was fantastic. That scene has pretty much all but died here in the US, unfortunately, mainly in the Northeast where I am now. How's the local scene of OCR for you guys?
The local scene kind of just is the scene because the UK is so small. So I think that definitely helps us because we're not having to like, even our furthest race might be Scotland, which I guess is a different country, but it's not like you're talking, 6 hours? And that's not happening too often. Like most races are
6 hour drive as well, not a flight.
Yeah, we complain about a 1 hour race or 2 hour race away. And it's, oh, this race is so far, it's 2.5 hours. When realistically, you could do it in the morning. So it's like, I think that definitely helps us.
That's awesome. I was supposed to drive 4 hours to see my in-laws this weekend. So that's it's insane to me.
It has slowed down a bit though. I think in the heyday we had races every single weekend, and there was thousands of them across the country, and it definitely has died down. There's not as many smaller races as there used to be, and some of the really good ones have gone, and then some of the really bad ones have also gone. And I think maybe the really strong ones who have managed to keep hold of everything through COVID and likes all that, they've managed to stay around, but it definitely has died down slightly.
Ships, you'd agree that what's happened, that it's died down. There's no scattering of obstacle course races in the UK, but what we have achieved now is maybe more structure, which not sure if it's a good thing for us, for racers, because you can plan your season, you can peak, you can deload, you can really specify to a race, you really can put the effort into that block. But I'm not sure if that helps the
fun side of things.
Fun side of OCR. I think you do need the scattergun approach of like races all over the place so that anyone can jump into it when they're feeling that spring of motivation.
It's when you get someone who wants like a local, like you just imagine you haven't come into the sport, you don't know about the sport. All of a sudden in your newspaper, you've got a 10K mud run obstacle thing come up, and you think, oh, that looks pretty cool. And that's how you get the people who get really into it, because they turn up, they think, hang on a minute, this isn't running, this is awesome, this is doing really cool stuff. And they're the people that you want to get into the sport because they're the people who love it, and they're the ones who's going to keep it going.
Chips,
and I think that's what's lost.
Can you just remind me how old you are? You just mentioned you see it in the newspaper.
or the journal.
What's the newspaper?
I'm just surprised you think I can read.
Something that I'm very, very jealous about with you guys in Europe is how close you are to everything. It's just different country. And I think the beauty of that too is that there's different styles of racing. So I had Leon and Stein on recently who talked about how, you go to this area of Europe and it's like heavy carries. You go to this one, and I know Netherlands is all about their ropes, and then this and that. What do you guys enjoy? Like, what would you say like UK racing is like?
I think it's just running in fields that are normally boggy. That's like sometimes a lot of our races will be a little bit more simplistic, so a lot of walls and a lot of like parries and things. But I find in the UK we have a little bit more running in between obstacles, and they're normally on quite like just hard terrain as well. Like it's normally wet. We're always wet in the UK, so it's like normally boggy. Normally you're going through some sort of stream, and it's kind of that is just think miserable racing. That's normally UK racing.
Sounds good to me.
You're selling it. You're the best one to reference for you. If anyone's coming over to the UK, it's still around today is an old school mud run which is called the Nuts Challenge, and that is traditional horrible UK obstacle course racing, but at its finest. That was, I think, everyone in the UK that's still in the sport today has probably started at Nuts, and it's in and out of trenches, in and out of water, crawling through mud, climbing up a wall. You've got mud all over you. You've got to climb a rope. You can't get up the rope. It takes you ages to get up it. It's freezing. It's raining. That's probably the best way to describe UK.
That is the bread and butter of obstacle racing. I think that Nuts Challenge is why I fell in love with obstacle racing. You can't get better than it. It's no gimmicks. I mean, the race director is not a normal person, and Wayne will back me on that because he's not a normal person, but he just wants to see people suffer. And I think that old school sort of vibe from race directors doesn't exist that much anymore. But it's just one of a kind race. It's got all the old school military style events that the military do, and you want to just try and do yourself because it's hard. It's not easy to do. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Speaking of like old school military style OCR, because OCR was huge in the US and there was a lot of eyes on that, but the birth of OCR really was Tough Guy.
Frog.
Did you guys back in the day ever get to experience Tough Guy, being old schoolers in the sport?
I experienced it from afar, but I was too young to participate. So I'd see people do it, and I knew people that were doing it, but I was not allowed. I was too young.
Dave wouldn't let you do it.
Yeah. I got to admit, I saw it and I didn't want to do it.
No, I would have done it. It's just one of those things. I know we're going to say it was quite far away, as in terms of getting there.
Yeah.
But it was quite far away, and I never got round to doing it myself. But I mean, there's some really great footage of John Albom and James Appleton a few years back doing it, and you saw when James Appleton, he's almost getting hypothermia, and then James has to give him a little rub down to keep him warm. It was a quintessential old school. It was just to make people suffer, and I think. Yeah, that has been lost a little bit. I don't think we get to suffer as much as we used to. I don't know if that's what's put people off or it's what's stopped people from coming back. But
you guys have all seen Rise of the Sufferfest, the documentary, right? Okay. Yeah, I think that exactly when you talk about Appleton suffering, that definitely made me think of that. Classic. And now we're to the point where it's a lot of focus on the championship races as sports progress. But there's different styles of penalties. So the 3-band system, mandatory obstacle completion, I guess burpees, if we still want to talk about that, and penalty loops. What would you rather see? What are your thoughts on those?
Depends what athlete you're talking to.
I know what I prefer, but yeah.
If you're talking to a strength athlete, or you're talking to a running athlete, or you're talking to a technical athlete. Go on, Mo. You go on. What do you prefer?
Me as a racer, I prefer the Spartan way, not necessarily when Spartan had burpees, but Spartan, you do the obstacle. If you fail that obstacle, you do a penalty loop where the obstacle is rather than at the end, because it just keeps the race together. You then know when you finish your penalty exactly what you need to do to try and get back on the podium. So doing penalties at the end can just get a little bit messy and a little bit confusing. Doing them next to the obstacle you've already been at just keeps it a race. The only problem with that, and we've had it in the UK, is just access to a penalty loop. And that's where I guess burpees came in quite nicely if you didn't have that much space. But Spartan did a really good job in the UK the last couple of years of making like really disgusting carry penalties. And they're just, they were really good actually, the Spartan penalties, I will say, in the UK for probably the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I quite liked the way OCR series did it back when they started doing it with the like you say, with the penalties at the obstacles, but it was also mandatory completion. So you did have the opportunity to tackle the obstacle multiple times. And if you needed to, because you couldn't get through it or you're wasting too much time, there was the opportunity to do a penalty at the obstacle, which it could have been as simple as just standing there with some battle ropes and you're just doing battle ropes for a minute. I mean, they didn't really care about form. It was more about how long he was doing it. But it kept the race alive. I mean, that worked quite well because it was a long race, but I think mandatory completion should be there, and then some other form of keeping it away from getting the cues, because that's where the mandatory completion has its faults, is if you're just completely doing mandatory completion. We've seen it at many championships. You just get cues.
Mm. Yeah, the banded system, through all its like pros and cons, has changed the game at championship races to actually keeping it as a race. Maybe it keeps it as a race for yourself, but doesn't keep it as a race with competitors, because you don't know where you actually lie. But it has kept it alive. Like I remember racing in the European Championships, and you're really going for a podium spot, and you're pushing people out of the way, trying to get to the obstacle because you can't get on it. It's massive queues. But I've not seen that since the banded system got put in place, which is a huge positive. But then it's also, okay, right, let's keep that. What seems to happen with penalties in obstacle course racing is we kind of go on that's not working a little bit, let's try something else. That's not working a little bit, let's try something else. But that's not how you build a good product. You put your first product, your version 1 product out, and then you put your version 2. Then you keep amending it and you keep changing it as feedback comes in. You've actually evaluated that feedback. So I just wish we could stick consistently with one, even if people have gripes on it. Wait a year, then evaluate it. Wait a year, then evaluate it. But it just seems like you have to read the full rule book so fully on every race to understand, right, Am I stopping? Am I carrying on? Am I going to get a scissor cut if I fail? Like, where do I go? Yeah. Definitely don't want running ones though. I hate those because
I love a running one.
no, but they're just so quick and like it's just pointless. People seem to like tap the obstacle and it's like, oh, I've got to run now. It's like, right, well, you haven't then pushed your body in the same way that I have. So I'm actually going to be more gassed than you because you've just done running, which you're a good runner, and you can't do monkey bars. Yeah,
the punishment has to fit the crime, and I think that the biggest issue there is like good course design, right? Like, so I am very much enjoy mandatory obstacle completion in the sense that like you get to try things again. So having like a buyout penalty, I think, is a good option too. But when I had Gian Maria Savani on the show, when he won the short course, he said he had a great time, but he didn't feel like he got to push himself because he was so nervous to fail something because you don't get to try it again.
That's the trouble with the new free band system. We don't race the same way we used to do. I mean, you go into the obstacle is it tentatively? Is that the word? Tentatively. Thanks very much. Tentatively, tentacle only. You don't race the same. You don't jump into it as much because if you come off, it's, especially in the short course, if you come off in the short course, you've got no hope of podium. No hope. So it does change you as a racer.
We said Shipley that actually if you wanted to keep the races a bit dynamic, you would have your 3K race to be mandatory completion so that people are actually flying into it and you're seeing that spectacle like we see on the 100 meters. That's why it's so popular. See people flying into
that's mandatory completion.
Yeah.
No one's talking about that, are they?
No, they're not doing burpees next to it, are they? And then for your longer races, then you can try out different penalty systems because no one really is going to see you in the forest looking all, amazing, swinging through something tentatively. But even I was watching Metal Games this weekend. They changed their penalty system again. Another new one.
How many bands?
5 bands, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh wow! So I didn't get the chance to watch it, and I do work with the OCR report, so I know Jason, Fran, and Will are all out there. How was the coverage for that?
Really good. Yeah, really good coverage.
We're a bit biased because our coach was one of the rabbits. So yeah.
Oh, awesome! Appreciate that. Yeah, so they had a 5-band system there.
Yeah, 5 bands, mandatory completion. I believe that this is, I think, how Fran described it. It was 5 bands, mandatory completion, and you just every time you failed, you got band cut off, and then if you got all of them cut off, you got DNF'd.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is that right, Ships?
Yeah. I think it's right.
Did they have penalties at the end of the race, or was it just straight cut? And
that's just mandatory.
On? So if you could not, like, if there's an obstacle that was going to take time, you could just jump off, get your band cut, and run off.
Yeah, but none of the obstacles were like that.
No, it's mandatory completion though. So you have.
So you have to do the obstacle.
Yeah.
So what's the point of the bands?
Because
you get 5 of them.
You only get 5 chances at the mandatory completion.
Oh, okay. I was confused too.
Right.
Not just you.
Okay, yeah. I was like, that does not. That seems like you can have some games with that.
No, but in the results, there was 2 local racers, I believe, that actually didn't complete. Oh no, I'm giving away the results. Shouldn't do that.
Spoilers.
I think they got all their bands cut off. That's all I'm saying. Someone got their bands.
I suppose you haven't watched it though, Mike, because there is some controversy on it that I think. So you need to check the results out.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely
leave it at that.
Okay.
I say controversy. It might not be controversial, but I think
it's always controversy with the sport. It's frustrating too because everyone's like, it's a new sport, but it has been like over a decade, and some of the things that it's like we can't keep saying it's a new sport for everything anymore.
If I had a 10-year-old,
we are regressing.
Yeah,
in some ways, definitely. But you mentioned like the longer races too. So you mentioned it a bit on your show about needing a screw loose for my favorite event of the show, favorite event of the year, World's Toughest Mudder, which is coming to England finally. Very, very excited that you guys are getting that in Europe. What are your thoughts on World's Toughest Mudder?
Great, but they picked the wrong date.
Yeah.
I think all the UK guys would be there if they didn't put it on the same weekend as the European champs.
Oh, right. I forgot. That is definitely, yeah.
It's annoying because it was a race. I was like, oh, I'd love to do that, especially if it's in the UK. You don't have to travel, but it's like, oh, well, now it kind of doesn't make sense. So,
I mean, these guys know how much I've been saying that I've wanted to do a 24-hour obstacle race for such a long time. And going to the US to do not only that, just doing a 24-hour race takes a lot to train for, especially if you want to do well at it. And to bring it over to the UK, I was like, oh, that is so good. I'm going to change up my whole year for that. And then they do it on the same day as the European Championships. And the trouble is, you've got to pick which one means more to you to do. And unfortunately, still fighting that battle to try and get a good podium in age group, you can't do it. So, but I think OCR's lacking. I mean, we need these distances, especially the 24-hour one. It's a whole different ball game. It's just puts that extra egg in the basket, doesn't it?
Never heard that one before. You say that.
Egg in a basket.
Egg in a basket.
Yeah, you do that at Easter. You put eggs in baskets.
I just chalked it up to a European phrase. That's
it's not one of ours.
European phrase.
That's a scaffolder phrase. That.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that.
So apart from a horrible pick with the date, which is a bummer, and it's also, I believe, the weekend before the Morzine Spartan Ultra Championships too, right? So that's another thing. Like, you can't recover in a week, so people have to pick and choose a little bit. But I'm glad it's coming to you guys at least, because I've gone to every event since 2017, missing one, and it's just awesome going to hear all the different languages, which you guys get to hear all the time, being lucky over there. But I'm very excited that I'm going there. My wife is running it for the first time, and it's going to be my first time to England, so I'm excited.
Whereabouts are you staying? Are you staying near the venue?
Yes, that's the plan, because I'm going to have to go there, because I'm going to be doing like the live coverage, work with Jason and all that, but I'm not too sure of any specifics
Are you going to be in the town that's near there? What's that town called, Darren, that's near it? Do you remember the one we went for lunch, for dinner at with all the lads?
Yeah, it was nice.
It was nice.
I can't remember what it's called.
It's like Geordie Shore.
Geordie. No one knows that Geordie. It was Geordie Shore. Jersey Shore. We've got Jersey Shore is a famous, obviously, US show, but we had Geordie Shore. So if anyone wants to know there,
yeah, if anyone wants to know what they're in for, watch Geordie Shore, and you'll probably get an idea what it's going to be like when you go there.
It's nothing like Jersey Shore, I tell you that. Just so you know. Yeah.
My wife's from Jersey, but she doesn't identify with them, which is good.
Oh, okay. We don't identify with Geordie Shore either.
No.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do whatever Fran tells me, I think.
Just on that note, on it being a clash with the European Championships, it's not a frustration, but it's also a really good thing at the minute of athletes in the UK. We've developed this to be quite professional in our approach to like races now, which is also makes us quite rigid. When a date comes out, we won't be going to that date because we've already chosen our like race season, and that changes. That is happening more and more, especially when racers want to perform and do well. Like, we will make sure we've got time to, specialize peak, deload, travel, nutrition. Like, we're taking it really seriously now, which is really important, but also doesn't allow us that flexibility to sometimes jump into these random dates that get thrown out in OCR.
Makes it tough. You also can't like overhaul everything, go from short course to 24-hour. Like, that takes a very, very long time. Like, I have no short course. I can't do that at all. But long-term stuff, like, put me out there and I will suffer with the best of them. But it's a tough thing to overhaul. So also accountability for you guys specifically. And I wrote this while driving a while ago, so apologies if anything's changed. But Darren, you talked about how you've failed with hydration back in February. So how have you been with being accountable with that?
Oh, well, being accountable with that is I got my bottle here. Look at that. My 1 litre bottle. And I think it's something Ships you gave to me in the advice was that also Shipley's really hot on his nutrition. He lives with his wife to be is a nutritionist. So he loves to give us these little bits of advice of different hydration tablets. So Ships, I've been having the hydration tablets you mentioned that don't have any sugar in them. Forgot what they're called. You have them, don't you?
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called either.
No, something.
Something.
Yeah, I've been having those. So basically, I've been making sure that I've got a 1 litre bottle full with that every day, because I just find that I don't do it otherwise. And in terms of having nutrition out, is I made sure that I actually got my flask back from Mo. So that was an important thing as well. Yeah. I actually had to buy others. I keep giving them to Mo and then never get them back. So I just got so many.
And then Morgan,
so many soft flasks.
You've been talking about, having a very, very young start to the sport and being vocal about being like the best in UK. You said time management and getting out of your bed on days off has been very difficult for you. How's that been?
It's still very difficult. It's I've been trying, although I've got a bit of a story. Was it yesterday? I actually woke up when I was supposed to start work, so I definitely didn't get out of bed that day. But it's been easier. Now I'm living like just me and my partner, like away from like where I normally was. My routine has definitely got better. Still, I work shift work, so it's a little bit harder sometimes because if I work the night, then you might be a bit more tired. But yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah.
Not perfect.
And speaking of routine, Shipley, you said that you get too obsessed with routine and that you need to kind of loosen up a little bit, be able to adapt. How's that been going?
Oh yeah, no, I'm still stuck in a routine. I've just learned to deal with just if I'm not in a routine, things aren't as good. But I think what I have done is I've definitely, because I know this now that I have to be in a routine. When things don't go in my routine, I think I'm a lot better at dealing with that than I used to be. And that's what I've had from these guys. It's when we have these conversations and it's talking about things, it makes you realize all the little flaws that you have. It's like a therapy session every time. And I think because we now identify with what we do wrong all the time, it's so much easier than when we are doing things wrong. We're able to see it and just improve on it or know when we're making the mistakes and things like that. So
yeah, OCR is all about working on your weaknesses, and that's what makes it so alluring for athletes, right?
Yeah.
And then actually, Chris, something else that you and I have in common, which is pretty cool, is that we were both guests on the Running Public. How was that experience?
I thought you were going to say cats. I thought you were going to say cats.
Cats too, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, cats are great. But going on the Running Public was amazing. It was really strange. Going on that, when I went on it, I was so nervous, and I never ever thought that I'd actually be a podcaster or be in a non-podcast. So that's like that development, because I never was good at speaking. I'm still not very good at speaking, to be fair, but now I'm so not nervous at talking that much now, and I can actually have a conversation most of the time, which is good.
Podcasting is weird too, like getting used to the sound of your own voice and everything.
Oh, it's crazy. It used to make my hands sweat so much, and especially because I do another podcast in the UK as well. UK who's hot?
On top? And who's hot? Yep.
Who's hot? And sometimes they ask us. It's really hard because it's always about getting facts right and things like that. And I'm terrible at it, and I can't remember people's names, and I get really nervous when I can't remember the facts about things, and I have to say to certain things. But it's good. Doing hard things, doing things that make you stressed is good for you. Definitely.
And then being accountable for the show. What's everyone's goals for this year, actually, both personally and for the show?
Darren, you take that one.
Why? Because
you're the boss.
I send these guys the most, I don't know, so many ideas about how we can grow Accountability Corner. Just for the show itself, I feel like we started this because we had organic conversations, and at the heart of everything we do, it is the ease of conversation and what comes up when we're training and struggling, buying new shoes, signing up for a race, and we just want to talk about it. And I never want us to lose that. And it's hard to keep that, but also have that growth mindset that I actually want it to grow. I want it to be bigger. But it's like, well, if it goes bigger, it gets more structured, it gets more organized, and you can take the fun away from it. And we even said this the other day. I think I was talking to myself on a group chat, but I was saying that we had loads of ideas. We came up with them. We want to push the sport. We want to help the sport, but also, I feel like we were kind of getting a bit stressed and losing that organic conversation that we would have. But we definitely want to help smaller events and series races. We want to help inform people to get into the sport, make sure that they are well equipped when they actually attend races. It's making sure people know what shoes to buy, or how to even sign up to the race, or where to find it, or to interview guests that are going to help people train better, or to help people actually understand that failing at a race or failing as a individual just in your training is actually, it's all normal. And I think we just want to normalize the normalize the internal voice, and that's probably what we want to do in this podcast.
Yeah. And I think hopefully people realise we're kind of like, I think we're probably a bit more of the everyday racer, and that hopefully like the people that listen to us are the people that we are. You know, we're not friends with Joe DeSena. We're not organising races, and we're not out there changing the rule books or being highly involved with Boss completely, because we're just the racers who are racing and actually in the sport. So hopefully what we say and do can help other people, because we're in the same boat.
Yeah, I think we would love for we always look at kits and things. So we would love for this to be a elite team as well, like the three of us. I think there's no beating around the bush. We would love that, wouldn't we? We would love to be able to the opportunity to sponsor ourselves and to travel to other races to get that experience and then bring it back onto the podcast to describe it and help people, even if they can't attend races, actually know what they feel like especially if you've got young people listening to this who want to get into the sport. We can share that experience with them and help them grow, because like Finley and like we keep saying Finley is a young athlete in the UK and he's growing, but there's loads of young athletes around him as well, and hopefully I think they listen to this and they enjoy it.
Yeah, we're cool with the kids, aren't we? Apparently.
Yeah, we are cool.
What about your experience with the show, Mo?
I just turn up. I just get told. I just get told what to do, what time we're recording, and yeah, they do the growing. I do the turning up, and that's.
He's being honest
as well.
Yeah, the editing. If Mo didn't edit, there'd be hours and hours of me just talking rubbish, wouldn't there?
Editing is tough. That's a not so fun part of the podcast for sure.
Mo wins for us in races and just wears the t-shirt. That's essentially what we have Mo for. Yeah, it was quite funny when Mo, you got on the podium for the Spartan race, wasn't it, this year? It's funny how much your t-shirt on a podium pushed up our listeners on the podcast, because I see all the stats and everything, and it was when US listeners went like skyrocketed just because they saw Mo on a podium. So I guess probably all three of us to be on podiums this year. That'd be with our t-shirts on.
Yeah. What about personal goals for each of you for this season?
Age group podium in the European Championships. I've been trying to chase that for ages, and it's a little monkey on my shoulder. I'm just constantly chasing that. But also I want to, because I was trying that so hard last year and got injured a bit. It was really hard not to want to do that so much because it took over my life. So I'm going to try and do that, but a bit more relaxed this year.
Wait for you, Mo.
For me, I think one of my main goals this year is going to be the Spartan UK series. I want to try and win that, and then trying to do well we have 2 series in the UK, so one's the UK OCR series as well, and try and just do well in that. But I know that's going to be a lot of racing as well, and there's a lot of some abroad racing I want to do. But in terms of just like the sport, I just know I need to get better at running. So a lot of this year is just going to be dedicated to becoming a really good runner and shifting the focus of my training away from obstacles and back into just becoming as best as a runner as I can be.
Yeah, I think for me it's just similar to Shipley, which is quite funny because we're in the same age group. It's eluded me as well, and I feel like we both know we can get there. Like we're not disillusioned as well. We know we've got the skill set we can get a podium position in the world and European championships at our age group. I know you didn't say world chips, but I know we can get world as well. So
one thing at a time, isn't it?
Oh no, put it out there, put it in the universe, and the universe will provide. It will give us it, manifest it. So
he's like this all the time.
Sorry, those 2 things would be awesome, but probably not many people know this, but in the UK we have a 3K series race. So the 3K distance, we actually have a series of races, which is awesome to have that distance as a series. And we also have another series race, which is kind of like an accumulation of loads of different distances and styles. So I think another aim is I want to win the 3K series. I've not actually mentioned that to them too, but I think they knew that anyway.
I want to do that too, but I thought I'd do that quiet.
That's all right. I'm not racing it, so I'll give you that one.
Cool.
Do your 3K races still have the 2 1K qualifiers?
No, so ours are completely different.
Because that was a horrible design choice. What's yours then?
It's not to do with Spartan either. So it's run independently. Sorry, you was going to explain it. You go.
No, because you'll explain it better.
No, come on. I want to hear you first, and then I'll help you
and
out.
Then you can correct me. Yeah. So ours is run. It's basically ran by race directors, and now it's going to be sort of run by race directors who have their own training facilities. So most of them is going to be at training facilities. So it's going to be organised by people who know what they're doing. Everyone's collectively coming together and communicating, which I think is the main thing. And it's simple. It's going to be what the racers want for the races. And it's, we should be able to get some good footage of it all. So it should be on UK OCR or whatever they're going to be putting it on. Darren, correct me.
No, you're right. It's good because it's actually not one person. It's a group of people. Their training facilities all fully equipped to put on these races, and it's going to be. They can only really facilitate a 3K distance, so that's what they're sticking with. And it got trialed last year, and it was really successful. Not only because it was really competitive, but also it's quite accessible for anyone new coming into the sport as well. 3K distance isn't as scary, and there's not much mud in a 3K series either. It's more, it's just short and fast, which
and it's got that entry level of availability as well, isn't it? If you're just coming into the sport, maybe the 15K or the longer distances are a bit daunting to you, so you can try your hand at the 3K, see where you perform in that, see how the obstacles are. So it is really inclusive to anyone who wants to try obstacle racing at a competitive level.
Yeah, so when does it end? It starts end of this month in Scotland and it ends in September, I think, our series. So yeah, it runs throughout the year. So it gives you a chance to really train for them races. And the good thing we've spoken about 3K races, they don't disrupt your training too much. Like you can come out of them, you can treat them like a very quality driven day of training and still put the effort in to win, but it won't give you that you don't need to take a whole week deload off or recover. You can get straight back into training again. So it's really accessible.
I will say that's what like the US seems to be missing, is that everything that we had in the US was Spartan, and now unfortunately is mostly just all Spartan. And so when that struggles, we'll say, in the US, there's not much left, but you guys have so many more local things working together. And I mean, Jim's putting that on. That's going to be great for getting more people to the gyms to continue to progress in the sport. So very jealous of that.
One of the things we asked Bracken when he came on our show, and I think I'll ask you, is what is it like for obstacle races in the US? Do they have access to training facilities, and what are the training facilities like? Because I think that's in the UK, that's really pushed the sport. It is having those places to train, try obstacles, learn obstacles, get the development. So do you have that there?
We had that. Again, the northeast of the US was like really where OCR, Spartan mostly, took off and just kind of spread across, because we had Killington, we had this, we had that. And just in New England, which is just like the 6 states, we had so many local, even in Massachusetts, I had probably 5 that I could drive to within like 3 hours. We don't really have those anymore, and the gyms that are still around have pivoted more to ninja or hybrid racing. We didn't even touch on that, but that's been taking away from our sport a little bit too. So we had a lot of that, and when we were booming, they were all doing well. But yeah, we had a lot of outdoor courses, a lot of permanent OCR courses that we thought would be the future, because you don't have to move all your stuff over, and it was permanently laid out, but people weren't going there anymore. And so that's been disruptive for us, unfortunately. But ironically, where Bracken is from, and he's not as familiar with it, but the Midwest, or the middle of the country, is doing best for local OCR. And I think that's really the only place where it's still doing reasonable, unfortunately.
How does that compare to the UK then, like size-wise, that area?
It's a good question, and I should know this because we talk about it frequently in like the OCR report group chat. It might be the size of England. I should look this up. I don't know, but
there's a comparison sometimes, because you got to. I think sometimes you forget that the United States is massive, isn't it? It's not. Yeah. It's not a small place.
No. It's a long time just to drive, or to fly from one side to the other. And I just was in Italy for a honeymoon, and it was just so cool how great your public transportation is and everything. Just everything is a lot smoother out there. At least it was in Italy, and nothing is nothing is reliable over by us. But
when you said 3 hours to get to a training center, I live 2.5 hours from my own home training center, and I still can't be bothered to go because it's 2.5 hours. So when you said 3 hours, I was like, oh God, I need to up my ideas.
That's a long way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't often go. I would go there to cover and give them attention with the show to try to help boost that. But through all of my efforts, these things are slipping a little bit. We lost Fit Challenge, which was a half hour from my house, where Hunter McIntyre, Ryan Kempson, some good athletes would go there once in a while, and it was kept winning best small OCR and the United States, and that went away, but it's coming back. It's a little messy here. So I look to you guys and I'm like, oh, optimism. This is refreshing.
I think sometimes you need the people to keep these things alive. So if you've got places doing high rocks and that, it could just be a branch of it. They've got all the facilities to still do obstacles.
Right.
It's just having those people to just keep pushing it and just keep making people see that obstacle racing is still alive.
We've talked about in the past. Obstacle course racing originated from the foundation of boot camps and people just wanting to stay fit and functionally fit. So these places can stay alive through the functional fitness side of things. And that's pretty much we went down to one that's 2 hours away from me, Body Hub ships, didn't we?
Yeah.
And they survive through functional fitness, not through obstacle course racing, yet they have a great obstacle course racing facility. Yeah. So I feel like the diversification has kept it alive a little bit, to making sure the owners of these gyms haven't thought, I am purely OCR and that is all I'm ever going to be. They've gone, right, OCR athletes are not really coming down. Let's diversify this and make this more functional fitness. And if they come down, that's an organic win, or that's just a byproduct of me just being available and open. And that's helped. And what we've even said about Rumble Fitness is where I train. I turned up to their Christmas party when I first joined thinking there was only 5 OCR athletes. There was 60, 70 people there. And I was like, who are all these people? That's the functional side of the gym. And I'm like, oh, I've never met them. So I think that's what keeps it alive.
That is awesome. A little behind the scenes too. I'm on the board for the New England OCR Expo, where we're trying to keep what we have alive still. And last year and this year, we're hosting it at a place which is called Ultimate Obstacles, and it is massive. On one side, it's all OCR and Ninja, and then the other side is laid back. There's a bar, there's just board games, pickleball, and I think that those kind of facilities may be the future. And hopefully, people that just come for pickleball are hey, what's this Ninja OCR stuff? And hopefully, we can start getting more people again. I do think we will eventually have a resurgence, but we started to go downhill a little bit before COVID, and then COVID really just smacked us down really hard.
The other thing we talked about governing bodies, and Boss in the UK do a really good job of promoting training centres, and they've made kind of the training centres one of the kind of key parts of growing the sport, and they've really put a lot of time and effort into building and helping. We even have actual coaching badges you can do now for OCR, and there's a whole system in place that's just pure for the training centres.
That's great. I think I've heard you guys talk about that on the show too, of the resources that they offer. And I think you've had a couple codes of hey, this percentage off your race, get there, support these races. And I think that's what's going to keep the sport alive and well. But starting to come to a close with 43 episodes down so far. You guys are crushing it. Very, very proud to see that, because podcasting is very much an ultra endurance event. It's tough to keep up with.
Nothing on what you've managed to do though, is it?
Some weeks better than others. It could be tricky, but yeah, I'll never be a great athlete. I am very much a middle to back of the packer, but the sport's done so much for me that this is my only way to pay it back. But you guys have done great. A couple compliments. I like the cards, the performance cards you guys have had. Did you know that way back, those used to actually exist? We had physical athlete cards that had stats and stuff, and then not enough people bought them, so they kind of went away. But I always thought that was a really cool idea.
All right. No.
Oh, nice.
Didn't know that. We knew we probably copied it from somewhere.
Yeah, we definitely copied it. 100%. Well, it is, isn't it? It's just top trumps, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But I mean, it's a really good way to it's good for when we have guests, really, isn't it? It just makes it look a bit more cool.
Yeah.
hopefully we can get one for we're all a community, and hopefully we can all, it's not our idea, it's not their idea. We can all sort of do it, and it'd be great to have it with the whole community.
But I got an idea for you two when we get off this podcast about that. So I'll message you.
Probably got a big document for that.
And then you guys also had a holiday episode where you had like a bunch of other podcasters on too. That was really, really fun to listen to. So more of that would be awesome. But where can people find out more about you guys individually and the podcast as a whole?
So the podcast, we actually, accountabilitycorner.com is our website. So I managed to get that. And then you can find us on literally any platform, on Spotify to iTunes to anything. The Accountability Corner. Yeah, just
underscore Accountability Corner.
Oh, is it? Well,
yes, on Instagram at least.
Sorry, Instagram handle. We are on TikTok as well, but them two don't know that. I just do all the videos on TikTok. So yeah,
I refuse to get TikTok.
But we might, it might be banned soon, so it doesn't matter.
I think we started on that.
Yeah, just fun. We're pretty rubbish at social media for the podcast. Not going to lie about that. We have spurts of energy that we do really well, but yeah, at least we tell people when we actually release an episode. That's a start. But I think individually we do well at posting up about our training and things, don't we?
Well, you do.
Ships, you do. Now you know how to do reels. You did a sweet reel the other day.
I did. And if you want to check that out, you can find it at Obstacle Race Dude on Instagram. And
that
give it a like. If you like
name. Best
I
name.
know, I've got a good one. If you like
Obstacle
cats, motorbikes, and obstacle racing, give us a like.
It's a good combo.
You're Morgan Maxwell, aren't you? That's it.
Just Morgan Maxwell. You'll find me. I might be posting. Sometimes I have quiet moments, but normally I'm telling you what I'm doing.
I would highly recommend Morgan Maxwell on YouTube. Mo's actually got a YouTube channel where he's done when Mo is dedicated to actually do a good video, he can do a good video. And when he gets out of bed on time, that's the most important thing. He can actually get stuff done. And you've done some great videos of, especially a documentary about the British Championships, your training, maybe not the eating competitions. I think that was probably a low point of your YouTube.
I thought it was really good.
Well, it might be a little bit of a teaser. I don't know when this is coming out, but there might be a new YouTube video coming out soon. So
awesome. I'll be sure to
on it.
Link that below. And then where can people find you too, Darren?
It's Darren Martin. I think it's _OCR, as everyone seems to do in their handles. Put OCR in there somewhere.
Until they change it to just runs, and it's like, oh, you've left us.
Yeah, no, he's gone. Hybrid. I'm going to change it to hybrid.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the time. Great to finally talk to you in person, and keep up the awesome work with the show.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
it's been
for
awesome to be on here.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Darren, Morgan, and Chris. Please be sure to check out the Accountability Corner's website, their podcast, and their social media.
It's all linked below, right?
Yep. Also follow Darren, Morgan, and Chris on social media personally, and check out Mo's YouTube channel. I plan to check out some videos sometime this week.
Some related episodes. Episode 337 with... go ahead.
OCR European Championships with Yes I Did Here.
Episode 351.
FISO OCR World Championships with short course champion Gian Maria Savani.
Episode 391.
Stein the Grand on survival running, Team Hang On, winning all events at the OCR European Championships, and more.
Episode 409.
Leon Kofod on injury recovery, intrinsic goals, winning OCRWC 3K, and more.
And episode 418.
Very recently, the 2024 OCR Podcaster Roundtable Chat with Fran Curando, Dave Claxton, Scott Knowles, and Jason Dupree. I feel like those were the most relevant to this episode.
As always, subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcast. And if you're on that purple podcast app, leave us a review.
Yeah, you could also like and follow us on the social medias, but most of all, Patreon. If you want to support us there financially, that'd be super helpful. Please be sure to join on the website and not on the app, since Apple will charge you some extra money. I'm realizing that is the change that happened.
That's crazy. Coming up next.
Hopefully, a woman who did a series of races in Florida that I want to take on someday.
Ooh, very cool.
Caitlin, do you have a joke or quote to close us out?
Got both. What is the least spoken language in the world?
Silence.
Sign language.
Yeah.
And then my quote is, your potential is limitless and your dreams are within reach. Believe in yourself and take action.
All right, so that just about wraps it up. My name is Michael Stefano.
And my name is Caitlin Ritter.
I hope I don't get your sickness, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you're feeling motivated, inspired,
And ready to take on your next race or training run.
If you've enjoyed this week's episode, leave us a review
and share it with your fellow adventurous friends.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Obstacle Running Adventures.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Join us every week for more news,
Stories and interviews from the community.
Our intro song was Streaker by Straight Up.
And our outro music is Iron Paw by The Best.
How's it going, guys?
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. We've been talking about this for a while now, so it's good to finally have this happen.
Yeah, it's amazing to be on. We can't believe our reach has gone this far.
Yeah. It all started because I think you guys reached out. I think it was like a comment or something. You're like, you should check out our podcast. And I did. And I've been listening since. So mission successful there.
Well, I think you just helped us correct how to pronounce someone's name when these two didn't realize there was a book on OCR.
Oh, I've been prepared. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yep. How do I sound, by the way? I have a graveyard of microphones in the back. I'm in the search for a new microphone. This is all I have, my gaming headset.
Oh, sound good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so some of these questions...
We can talk about gaming afterwards as well then, if you've got a gaming headset.
Love that, yeah.
I've been just doing it retro and playing Final Fantasy VIII on my phone, so I'm going old school.
Hell yeah.
At the moment with games.
Yep. Yeah, no, I have... You want to talk games? It's something I get sidetracked for. I have like the original like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Atari, and television, all that stuff upstairs. And then down here I have like all of the new consoles. I love it. If I'm not running or training or, doing OCR or podcasting, I'm playing video games. So perfect. All right, we can end it there. That was fun. I really do enjoy hearing your episodes. It's really fun hearing you, Chris, make up so many words too.
They're actually words. They're British words.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And it's actually been so great to be on your podcast as well, because it you know what, sometimes it feels like the three of us are just talking to ourselves, and maybe you felt that at the beginning.
Yes.
And it's nice to know people actually maybe find it informative to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good resource. Yeah,
this is the podcast where all the big OCR people come on, so we're doing all right then. They've had all the big names.
No,
we'll have to return the favour as well. You'll have to come on ours so you can get your own card.
Yeah, no, I love that. I don't have much for athletic abilities.
That's all right. We can all make it work.
As long as you beat Alan, you'll be all right.
I did not share poop particles with you.
Gross.